I'd like to call the Plan Commission meeting to order on Tuesday, October 5th at 6 p.m. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My name is Kevin Kubacki. I'm one of the aldermen in Muskego. The mayor couldn't be with us tonight, so he asked me to sit in for him. So with that, please call the roll.
Commissioner Graff.
Here.
Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Madden.
Here.
Commissioner Kazana. Commissioner Buckmaster.
Here.
Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Alderman Kubacki.
Here.
Planner Chesbetowski.
Here.
Statement of public notice.
This agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Friday, October 1st.
Approval of the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the September 7th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Consent business, resolution PC 63, 2021, approval of a one-lot certified survey map located at the end of Crystal Drive, tax key number 2288996-003 and 2287999004. Resolution PC 62, 2021, approval of a metal accessory structure for Del Darga located at South 98, West 20412, Parker Drive, tax key number 2277996-016.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent business passes unanimously. Old business for consideration. Resolution 562021, approval of an annual review for Fry Auto located at South 106, West 16301 Loomis Road, tax key number 2293996-002. Adam?
Thank you. So yeah, an update. We did receive an email or a letter, which is attached to your packet, following up from that last Plan Commission meeting. There was a couple options discussed as far as what we can do to try to help encourage the business owner to stay into compliance and be in compliance in the first place. We've mentioned that for quite some time. We've been doing these different reviews at yearly increments, 6-month increments, 1-month increments with little to no success. So something kind of had to change. The applicant stated to me as recently as today that they were going to be here, but I don't see them now. But they did kind of talk in general that they are looking to try to purchase some property in very close proximity. There's 1 or 2 lots that have some potential near them that they have talked, specifically one more than others, that they're trying to work out a deal to purchase a chunk of the lot that they would propose putting in a solid type fence basically for storage. The idea that there's just more stuff he has than he can part with, as well as more than can fit on this site. So he's looking at one of these other sites to do a screen storage lot. He's talking about having like an automatic gate, very minimal lighting just for safety. There'd be security cameras, be willing to put trees and shrubs around the area to help screen it. And they stated the project could be completed in 9 months. Now, I don't know if the Plan Commission's crazy about waiting 9 months. That's something that can kind of be talked about. I know that Alderman Madden has mentioned to me that she was out there recently that things are slowly kind of getting chipped away at, which is good progress. It's just a question, I think, of how much is enough and when. As far as to do some of the items that Mr. Fry is talking about possibly buying another lot, purchase or lease is one thing. I think we would encourage a purchase over a lease just because it ensures longevity. But the other thing would be zoning. The property he's looking at now is currently zoned A1 agricultural and has a conditional zoning for a B4 commercial district pending some site approvals and such. The B4 district, though, specifically talks about, that you can have sales and service for automobiles, but it specifically talks about not being allowed to store junk direct vehicles. And a good portion of these vehicles would probably fall into that junk or wrecked category. They might not be full-blown demolished cars, but still needing a lot of work. Some of the cars might be like parts vehicles and such. So based on that, staff's recommendation would be, if we were eventually to go this route, that he would probably have to ask for a rezoning to M2, because M2 allows what the code defines as like a junkyard or salvage yard. And not that he's your traditional junkyard, but I think we would have to review it that way, because he is storing wrecked vehicles, and that's really the only way to have wrecked vehicles in an outdoor scenario, even if they're screened. So like I said, I was hoping the applicant would be here. Where the resolution was left is the resolution as it sits on the floor does have conditions to start citing Mr. Fry, because we had to put something in there to start, but this was deferred from last meeting, as well as, just pulling it up here, I think it talked about recommending to Common Council to begin the process to terminate the conditional use grant. Now, the consensus that I took from the last meeting was that there wasn't as much interest in terminating the CUG, but there maybe seemed at some interest in citations if there wasn't some kind of solution established.
And we asked him, I think specifically, to come up with a tangible solution. The prospect of possibly buying land doesn't seem too tangible to me. So the options we have this evening is to cite, to terminate the CUG, or to come up with another recommendation. I did talk to the mayor briefly about this, and the mayor thought that having a signed, valid offer to purchase with a closing date might be a starting point. And the possibility of going through zoning and everything else prolongs this for several months, I'm guessing.
Yeah, for between rezonings and stuff, yeah, it could definitely be months.
Yeah.
One question, Adam. Looking at the map that was in the packet, where I think the woodwork shop is, as I recall, west, almost directly west of that. What outlots was he talking about?
I think he's talking, it would be more so south of the woodworking shop. There's that large parcel that kind of.
Opposite Muskego Dam Road.
Yeah. That was a site that was approved tentatively for All-Star Rentals. So All-Star Rentals is kind of located kitty corner from Fry Automotive now. They've been looking to expand for a while, but kind of pops its heads up and then goes away, and pops its head up and goes away. But that owner of All-Star Rental owns that lot, Mr. Erickson, and that's who JJ Fry has been talking to. And he seems to not need that full lot for what he wants to do there. That's why he's willing to sell a portion of it. It makes it sound like it'd be kind of out of the way on that lot. I think wherever he puts it, it's kind of irrelevant, as long as he properly screens it. Right. But yeah, the question is, how long does it take us to get there? If it does pan out.
So is the logger jam right now, we don't have a plan like we originally deferred it for last month? Because we asked for a plan, and it's seeming we don't have one. We have the discussions and right, so we really don't have a drawn out plan that connects the dots.
You're correct.
Yeah, we have an email that
It's like
says
a
some
concept.
hopes.
This is a concept.
Yep.
So, I mean, in lieu of all of this, I'm willing to defer another time, but at some point, I think we've dealt with this in the past, and generally, made steps that work. At least in the past they have. However, at some point, it's done.
It's got to get fixed.
We've got to flip a switch, so I guess I don't really have anything to add other than what we added at the last commission. So, I mean, I'm willing to defer one more month and see if we can work something out. I think it's got to be very clear that I'm certainly willing on the record to terminate the CUG if this does not, or we don't see some sort of a plan, or this is going to go back and forth. It's a waste of my time, Commission's time. So I have no problem terminating this CUG if there's no plan to show otherwise, even a concept, something on paper.
So do you think your conversation with the mayor, action in regards to, from my perspective, this is conceptual. Action is by far stronger than concept. I think in good faith, we need to see some action that is melded into a plan. Even if it is, I've got a commitment to buy both parties, and to meet our codes, it needs to take 5 more steps. It's at least an action plan and a commitment on his part that on such and such a date, I am going to acquire the property to resolve our issues, start the resolution of our issues. This is a nice email. That's all it is.
One thing that I've seen work, so that's why I'll offer this. And maybe not, I'm not saying this happens now. This could be maybe if you did defer another month, maybe the next step is the citation route on this property has historically been the only thing that I in my career have seen work here. The only thing that's ever gotten the property fully in compliance. Citation doesn't mean guaranteed fine. Citation doesn't mean an enormous fine. None of that. Citation really gets you in front of the attorney, holds you accountable, and if you don't follow through, eventually gets you in front of the judge. And one of the things that we could do, and like I said, maybe this is the next step if another time is given or something, where, what we've done in a lot of cases where we have citations is even shy of them going to the judge, just working with their city attorney, is basically putting a written agreement. Hey, if you do these by these dates, your fine is maybe something with super minimal or maybe nothing, maybe enough to just say cover some time of the city attorney. And if you don't do it by this time, then your fine is like what it could be, which could be, 5-6 digits potentially, just given how long this has gone on. So, that's something that I would probably recommend at some point if we keep seeing hopeful direction, but not really forward direction, like you said, action, because we can have a lot of control to say, just because you're cited doesn't mean it's going to be this astronomical amount of money. It's not just a dig in the pocketbook, but it's holding them accountable to their plan, because you can put things that they're agreeing to that would be validated by the judge to say, do this and your fine's little to nothing, and don't do this and it's big. So kind of giving them, holding them to the fire officially. That's something we've done on other projects we've had luck with.
Okay. Can we then just amend the existing document before us that basically says, kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Say, present a plan acceptable to staff that addresses the issues at hand, and if not, you're cited.
I think his problem has been he's made an offer. He told the gentleman he would like to buy. His biggest problem right now is getting him to commit to sell. The guy's trying to talk him into lease, which is obviously not the best plan. He'd rather buy it. He's having a little trouble getting him to commit. He knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to make it happen.
I think
He just has to get everybody on board. And I can tell you, he has been moving cars. He has been moving cars, and it seems like the cars that have disappeared were the ones that were in the worst shape. I don't know if that means it went to the junkyard or what, but it does seem like he has moved a considerable number of cars so far. And now he's here so we can...
Well, I can go either way. So but I think at some point we've got to get this off our back.
Yeah, I think the plan has to come back to you guys, whatever that plan is.
Right.
JG, can you give us an update?
What I came up with,
You might have to turn the microphone on.
does that work? There we go. What I came up with is Mike Erickson at All Star Rentals is talking about developing that chunk of land there that's agriculture right now behind me. Last time I was here, I was entertaining the idea of buying a gas station and putting a fence around it, but I think that soil's all contaminated and it's a bag of worms right there. So I talked with Mike about possibly purchasing. He even talked about renting it to me. I'd rather purchase a section of land. It's kind of like where the yellow, I don't know if you can tell, like directly behind the gas station, like where the yellow is in that corner. I was thinking about buying, it's like, yeah, right in that area, like straight out from Muskego Dam Road, like straight back on the right side. He wasn't going to use any of that for his project that he was thinking about doing. So I was thinking if I bought that and put up a nice big fence, and that area is elevated there too. So any view from the road really isn't, you can't see nothing really what's going back there, you know, and I think that would solve my problems with all you guys once and for all for the next 25 years, I'm hoping here. So, but I mean, it'd be a big fence and all gravel lights, electric gate, illuminated at night.
How's the
So,
negotiation?
With camera.
How's the negotiation going? Are you advancing the negotiations?
With the owner of the land? Not until I talk to the bosses here. I mean, he would do it. He's good to go, you know. But because I don't foresee his project happening in the next couple of years, but it would help him out in a way too, because I'd be putting a driveway that he originally proposed in his plan with Adam. I'd be helping him put that driveway in, you know. So.
Which plan is not going to go in a couple of years? His plan?
Well, I don't know if it is or not. He wants to build his All-Star Rentals that's in the bottom right-hand corner, all in that field there.
That wouldn't stop you from doing your plan if you.
It would not.
If you could procure that property.
Yeah, I'm not buying the whole property, just
Right.
a section,
If you
but
could procure the
it,
part of the property you want, you could continue moving forward without his plans being enacted.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it would probably help him. Well, it would put in his driveway, so it'd give him this much of
Where would the ingress egress be into that lot?
straight up. So if you kind of see where it says Muskego and Muskego Dam Road, like by Ludwig's cabinet shop there,
Yep.
like straight, yeah, like right there, and is where he proposed his driveway straight back. That's where he wanted it, and that's where, I mean, it would be perfect, because like, if you draw that line straight down from where your arrow is, down to the yellow is, to the right of that is where I'm
So
all
you had an
talking.
easement on that driveway to get into your property, and you have direct access in off of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we talked, and he was talking about renting, but I think me and Adam talked earlier. I mean, it seemed like it'd be easier if I bought it and cut it loose from him, you know, so, but, that's where he was.
Is he willing to sell?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, he said, I'll sell or rent. I don't know whatever benefits him better, but I think he'd sell it. I mean, we're pretty close, you know. So, but
And you recognize that there's some zoning issues that
yes,
you have
yes,
to overcome?
yes. And behind that whole thing is all those that row of trees there. So it's all sheltered from the. I mean, you got to look at the gas station anyway, but behind that it's all trees. So that's kind of should be sheltered for as long as we're on this earth. I'd imagine it wouldn't be disturbed, that tree line back there, you know? So what I'm proposing is you really can't see much of it, you know? So.
Well, do we adjust the amendment that we had a month prior to giving him a 30-day outlet to get a procurement of the property, at least a signed offer, and see where we can go from there within 30 days?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, if we're to do that, your best bet's probably just to defer it again with that intention. You know, here's your direction, come back with an offer in that time
There's
period.
got to be a valid, signed, accepted offer to purchase on that parcel.
Yeah, I have to talk with him more about it, because like I said, since I talked to him about the renting or owning, we didn't really talk after that, but he's not using it, so I don't see why there'd be an issue. It wasn't in his plan at all, so. But
So if we call for that for next meeting, and in the meantime, continue to move cars.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Are there any
Steel prices are up, move the cars.
I know.
Any anticipated impediments of getting the zoning revised?
Well, I mean, we don't have M2 is an industrial zoning. So, I mean, I think we'd be, you know,
You said that was agricultural, though.
right now it's agricultural. B4, which is highway business, is what Mr. Erickson, All-Star Rentals, proposed and received. He would need more of an industrial zoning, which, I mean, really, this board and common council will be the ones to decide if they would be receptive to that. But if you're going to use it for storage of potentially wrecked vehicles, he would need that M2 zoning.
Is there a CUG allowed?
No,
Or you couldn't?
not for like junk direct vehicles,
You
no.
can't, okay.
So we wouldn't, so outdoor storage, like, was Storage Masters zoned as right now?
They're actually an industrial, I think a light industrial zoning, but mini storage you can do in some business districts. Once you start storing any vehicles that are wrecked or junk, like Storage Master shouldn't have wrecked or junk vehicles, I believe.
Okay.
But normally any wrecked or junk vehicles falls into that like salvage yard, junkyard, even though I understand that's not specifically what it is. That's probably the best hole the peg fits in.
And before, would there be no CUG allowance was thinking for.
Before talks about like, sales of vehicles, repair of vehicles, but specifically excludes any junk direct vehicle storage. They don't want used car lots or car lots period or car repair to be also having those wrecked vehicles outside.
What's directly south of this, of that field?
There is one home that I know Mr. Erickson, and I think JJ's you talked about that person always knows this is going to be developed for some type of business use. And I think from what I've heard, they've just asked for some landscape screening. Other than that, it's a pretty rural area south of there.
I talked to him. He was my ex-brother-in-law. So, don't care. So.
Would someone like to make a motion?
So, well, I'll
Motion to defer?
motion to defer with the understanding of what,
It'd be a signed accepted offer to purchase on the property.
correct, so I'll move to defer.
Second.
Any other discussion?
As long as it includes the contingencies you mentioned in your email. So we need to go further than just, that's step one,
Right.
signed.
Exactly.
That's step one.
Yeah, I have to, obviously that's step one, and I gotta meet with,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my general contractor that built my building just probably take care of it for me,
Okay.
So, and, just fencing alone is out 9 months, which is unfortunate, but, whatever, everything's going on. I'd imagine the project wouldn't be completed till spring, I'd imagine. So,
At the earliest.
yeah.
I think if we were to see continued progress,
Yeah.
that's usually, I'll speak for the
Yeah,
plan commission.
That'd be
speaking for
And-
myself,
and just to set the
a
stage.
plan in progress is what, I mean,
You're looking for.
we've been doing this,
Oh, yeah.
2.5 years or something like
We need an
that.
action plan, we need to follow through
Yep.
with a deadline.
Yep.
Because the last thing I think we want to do is to pull a CUG. I mean, that's
Yeah,
closing
that
your
sucks.
business, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But we got to get this thing accomplished. So step number one, valid signed offer to purchase
Yep.
by the next meeting. In the meantime, continue moving cars, work with Adam as far as the zoning change to M2. We got to move this along, JJ.
Yep,
Okay.
definitely.
Do we need to see some sort of layout as we see in most other packages? Do we see a layout with your road, your fencing, all of that as well?
I mean, there'll have to be a formal detailed approval. It's up to you if you want to see something preliminarily earlier.
I'd say that should be accompany this document.
So at least like a conceptual layout.
Conceptual. It's an email right now. Put it on paper. Make it a public record.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea because then
Yeah.
it probably will sail through us.
Yep.
And that's actually a good point because when we get all that out of the way, will help you out.
Yeah.
Definitely down the road.
All right.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't have to have nothing from my builder for actual draw. Something
you
so
could-
we
what
can
you-
all understand what we're talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
Take a map
No,
like
not
that and
with
draw it
brand.
It doesn't have to be
Or
certified. It
watercolors.
just give us,
Yeah, take a map like this, or Mr. Erickson has surveys, use one of his survey
Exactly.
drawings
That's what
as a
I
base and
figured
just
that's
draw
what
on
you're
it or
looking
something.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
make it part of the.
Just so you
package.
understand what we're talking, or we all understand.
Exactly.
We're on the same page here.
All
Exactly.
conceptual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do we all understand the motion that we, okay?
Yep.
Prepared to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks.
New business, PC 60-2021, discussion of conceptual land division for Autumn Pen LLC, located on the north side of Ryan Drive across from St. Andrews condominium, tax key number 22559790002. Adam?
Thank you. So this is a conceptual, conceptual discussion to look at a new subdivision that's being proposed. This lot had a previous approval numerous years back for a subdivision known as Gulfview Estates. At that time, lots were around the 40,000 square foot range. That was kind of before our current comp plan was in place. In talking with the developer over the past, year or two or so, it was brought to their attention that with their current comp plan designations, that 40,000 minimum was going to have to go up to 44,000 minimum. And that's when we started talking about some other options like possible conservation development. So what they're proposing now is there's two plans in front of you. There's, a concept yield plan and then a concept plan with the conservation principles. What they're showing basically is the first show on the yield plan, if they were to do a conservation rezoning to a conservation plan development, how many lots could they get with traditional zoning? So that's kind of step one. Now that plan needs to account for roadways, it needs to account for stormwater management, all those different things. And that kind of sets a base number if they were to go forward with the formal conservation rezoning. Then what they're allowed to do is make a concept plan off of that, which is basically saying take that base yield number, and given the size of the lot being under 40 acres, they're allowed to have up to 4 bonus lots. Now, whether the Plan Commission and Council give anywhere from 1, 2, 3, or 4 bonus lots is really up to those boards and committees. They don't have to give the max. They can give the max. It's really up to them. But those bonus lots are a reward the city gives for them using these conservation principles that are identified in our ordinance. So they would have to meet things like 50% total open space. They have to, one thing they can do is increased stormwater management, so better stormwater management even than normal. A big one, which is the case in this development, is the developer has offered to propose a multi-use trail that would really connect Ryan Drive all the way north to Boxhorn Drive. So even though this development doesn't front on Boxhorn, it's along Ryan, they own a strip of land under the power lines that allows them to connect all the way up. And that's something as staff we thought actually would be a pretty huge achievement if the city were to be able to get a trail funded by a developer, which is not uncommon to have developers do trails, that would have a pedestrian connection in the area. Now it's fairly rural, but still a lot of people that walk around on roads that aren't really pedestrian friendly. So it'd be a huge shortcut for pedestrians from Boxhorn to Ryan and back and forth and such. Now there's parts of that, there's probably wetlands and stuff, so some of this trail might have to almost be like a boardwalk or something, but that would be one of the things. And in exchange for the owner asking or offering this trail, they're then asking for the 4 bonus lots, which is the max they can get. So that was kind of what staff thought was a very enticing thing. They are also showing some private trails that would be more specific to their residents, which is fine. You can have public and private trails, but the main one would be a public trail that would, ultimately probably be maintained in responsibility of the city and part of our trail system that we have. Now, it doesn't specifically connect to specific trails sections right now. It's close to some trail sections, but I think it would be a huge connection for just even a pedestrian to get from one road to the other and or future trail connections in the area. So the applicants here, if you have questions and looking for any kind of comments or feedback.
I think it's great. I like it. It helps a lot of the residents in that area with that trail. As you said, it's not a friendly walking area right now, and that would be huge, and it would get it close enough to us at some point we could connect to our other trails that are close by.
I personally like conservation subdivisions. The ones we have in place right now have been very successful and well received by the public.
One more just general question on overall planning. So this has the drive that comes in, Autumn Drive, and it right now dead ends to somewhere, and then Harvest Way also dead ends. And some of our developments, we have the cul-de-sacs proposed in those areas. Especially, because there's always in previous developments that have come in, we've had you gotta have 2 ways in and out. So, could you explain a little bit of the logistics behind the setup here?
Sure. So frontage is king when it comes to having road connections, and most of this frontage, except for one little corner, is all wetland. So frontage on the road to the south is very limited. As you're familiar with, I'll use Kirkland Crossing as an example. We had that road stub to the east. The ordinance does recommend /require ask for that. There is some upland north of this property, not a ton of it. That's why we're showing a road stub to the north, as well as there's been specific talk I've had, it was years ago, but with a couple of those handful of owners to the east that did want to split the backs of their properties off. But there's no way to do it without this. So this road would be stubbed to their lot lines, which in theory, just looking at an overview of the area, could stub east. So each owner would have to do their own little portion if they wanted to extend it further to utilize the benefits of doing a land division. And eventually, if the fourth lot to the east is a much larger lot, then I'm not saying that developer or that owner ever has to develop it. If they were, there is a potential connection for a future development and or other road connections. There's really no feasible way for them to have another road access point with this development at this time.
Okay, so essentially, fire department access, that would be under the staff review at some point, and if they approve a hammerhead T, because I'm assuming it's not 150.
Oh, yeah. So the way they're showing it, they don't show a bulb. They would still be required to build usually at least one of the two, if not both of them, a temporary bulb. So the right of way is not dedicated, but we do an easement. So yeah, no, our public works has gotten pretty diligent about that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The only, so the northern one, for example, I could see maybe not having a bulb because there's no one that would have to rely on it for turnaround because you could avoid it before you got there. I could see the one to the east having a temporary because there are a few homes that have to front off of it, but our engineering department would look at that.
Okay.
I was thinking a more permanent cul-de-sac.
I have no issue with this. I agree with Eileen.
Okay. Brian, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I did talk to the neighbor to the north. Now, right now, it's currently owned by a gal that's in her 90s, but the daughter-in-law, who's eventually going to oversee her estate, says the day comes that she's no longer at that property, she's selling that property and probably to another developer. So by us teeing into that, heading north, will be ideal. So eventually it's coming. I don't know if that answers any of your questions.
The biggest
or
thing
not.
too, just to stress is, and your engineer should know this, but biggest thing is just making sure that when they do the formal plans, which would the next step would be a formal rezoning
Right.
with some more further developed plans. They just need to make sure that they kind of fine tune the plans a little bit and make sure they're looking through the ordinance for all the details, like the 50% open space. There's one lot that you show on the concept that doesn't abut an open space area, but it has to. So we can always talk with your
Yeah,
survey
right.
about that, but just fine tuning little details.
Okay.
Exactly right. And the viewing of those wildlife trails will be real nice because we own all the land underneath that American Transmission. And so it's actually very nice down in there. And I think a lot of wildlife would be, especially with the condos that are going in across the street and the new development that went in across the street. I would think that trail's going to get a lot of use.
Good.
So,
Now, as far as the bonus lots, they're not guaranteed they're available. So,
yeah, that's kind of why we're offering to put in these walking trails and wildlife trails. So hopefully kind of offsets and makes it cost effective to have these extra lots.
okay. Any other discussion? So conceptually,
This looks good.
right.
Yeah.
all right. I don't think we need a formal vote, so that's good. Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Under new business again, resolution PC 61, 2021, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Milk Can Hamburgers and frozen custard located at South 73 West 16770, Janesville Road, tax key number 21989840006. Adam.
With this one, we need a motion on.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. So Milk Can Hamburgers, we discovered they built this structure on their property. I'll word it that way. They didn't know they needed plan commission approval for it. So what we kind of did was trying to be, accommodating to businesses. We basically said, hey, leave it up for a month, because they wanted to kind of try it out, and I'll explain in a minute what it's for. And we said, if it works, great, we'll come apply for plan commission. If it doesn't work, remove it. So they left it for a month, and what it's meant to be is it's kind of a little pull-off station. This isn't super common in faster food or quicker service industries, but some of them, and I know Chick-fil-A and Portillo's will do this, that on busy times, rather than have everyone go right to the speaker, because that can be a bottleneck point, they like to have people with like iPads or mobile tablets or something kind of walk through the line and almost get the orders taken sooner, so there's more prep time, so people aren't waiting as long. So they built this building building as a little shelter for staff to kind of hang out there, and as they're taking orders, there's a little shelf in it to put a point of sale system or something on it. So it's basically meant on busy times to give them a little more flexibility. If there is bad weather or whatever, some ability to get out of the weather, but still try to help take orders and stuff. The little structure itself, is kind of a rustic look to it, very similar to the characteristics of the building. Has some corrugated metal, some rustic barn boards. Aesthetically does fit with the design motif that they've kind of established out there. We don't have one of these, but we don't really see any problem with it. I drove by it the other day. It's anchored to the ground. There's really not a lot to it. It's in an area that was approved. If they ever wanted to have their custard truck out there, it would be kind of right adjacent to that, which kind of makes sense. So I don't have any issues with it on the staff end, but bringing it here to formalize it.
It's pretty inventive. It really gets the cars off of Gatesville, gets you in and out to park and wait. It was actually quite, because I got pulled over to it, I was thinking, what the heck is this? And boy, I was in and out of there, and it
See, I don't think they like the term in and out, though.
maybe
Yeah,
not, but but I thought it was very inventive. Yeah, no issues.
And taking care of staff.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a
I mean,
win-win.
it is right, because you've got cars
It'd be a tough job during the winter, though.
coming in there, so that was good.
But
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Resolution PC 64, 2021, approval of a platted preservation easement alteration for Paul and Jane Wagner located along Oak Ridge Lane, tax key numbers 2172062 and 2172063. Adam, please.
We need a motion on this one.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is something a little bit different. We haven't had a formal request exactly like this before, but we've had similar enough items to be able to work with it. What the case is here is the Oak Ridge Glen subdivision, if you're familiar with it, is located off of Martin Drive near Janesville Road. And there is a handful of lots in that development that when they were developed were in highly important and real high quality environmental areas, woodlands and such. So in order to allow the developer still to develop, but with some kind of control to not make sure everything gets clear cut, which we want to avoid in a lot of these neighborhoods. There were preservation easements established on many of the lots. And on a lot of the lots, especially the lots in this specific area, they're kind of U-shaped preservation easements that kind of wrap the building pad to ensure that the backyards, at least a third of the lot or so is preserved permanently as natural area, as well as some of the preservation areas kind of wrapped around the sides of the lots just to kind of give that enclosed feel and, keep a lot of those nice mature trees available that are there. In this case, the applicant approached the city as they're looking at building a house, and some of these building pads are very tight, very custom homes, kind of shoehorned in sometimes, for lack of a better term. And in this scenario, the applicant basically said, we're looking at buying it. We have family in the neighborhood, but the house we want in the design just will never fit on a single lot. So we're willing to buy 2 lots to make this happen. And we do actually have 2 other scenarios in this exact neighborhood where homeowners bought 2 lots and combined them to build one house that just wouldn't fit on a traditional building pad. So this would be the third. What makes this one different from the others is that there is a little finger of preservation area that cuts down into the middle if they were to join these 2 lots together. So our staff suggestion, and this is something our city forester was okay with also, was whatever the square footage of the area you'd want to remove from the preservation easement requirements, just adding those areas somewhere else. We're basically saying, hey, we're gonna kind of erase this old easement in the middle, which will allow you to build more in the center part of the lot. But then adding the same square footage, I think they actually went a few square feet larger, more on the outskirts, which is something our forester has always explained to me has been a big advocate of, because last thing you want in conservation is little disconnected pockets, and not that these are disconnected, but the larger contiguous areas you can have of open space, the more fruitful they are for especially wildlife, but also plant growth. So staff doesn't have an issue with this request, which would be removing that central portion of the preservation area and basically adding it to the outskirts is what they're proposing. So there's a exhibit in your packet that shows this. And if the plan commission would recommend approval, this would go through common council then to solidify it before we would, vacate that easement and then reestablish the new easements. The only comment that I got this afternoon from our city forester, and maybe the applicants can speak to this, the city forester, still what he didn't want to see with this moving is that they just clear cut the whole pad. He wanted to stress, and maybe we want to make it a condition of approval if we are okay with this, is the idea of you can obviously clear anything you need to within that pad, but not just clear cutting for the sake of having a big open plush green yard. Because, the idea of these preservation lots aren't to have big giant open spaces. It's meant to preserve as much as you can, even outside the preservation easement. So I don't know if that's something you want to speak to or willing to just kind of committing to not removing more than you need to is the best way to word it. We said we don't want it just to be end to end, clear cut with a nice square boundary. We want it to be as natural as possible.
And if you'll give us your name and your current address.
Eric Slavensky. So yeah, that is the intent. Is not on.
And your current address, please.
Currently, it's South 66 West 16224 Chestnut Ridge. We're in the Oak Ridge Glen subdivision as well. So my wife is, it's my in-laws that are looking to build in the subdivision, but that is their intent. They love the wooded lot and would like to keep as many trees as possible.
It's fair enough. If anything, maybe we just make an amendment to the resolution. I didn't have it in there because I kind of got the comment late, that maybe we can just put something in there that, efforts will be taken to preserve as many trees as possible. We understand you got to do grading and all that kind of stuff, and you still get your patio and whatnot, even outside of the preservation areas. Maybe something to that extent would be my suggestion.
Acceptable, everyone? Mm-hmm. Acceptable deal? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Amendments or?
Yeah.
I'll move to amend.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? Let's vote on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes.
Okay.
Ready for the main motion?
Move to approve as amended.
All those in favor of the main motion as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous business.
None.
A motion to adjourn will be in order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Good night.